It's late on a warm August evening, and the park that I had hoped to visit today was closed by Hurricane Beryl. But there's bad news here at Stephen F. Austin. It's also temporarily shut down, so it looks like it's time to pivot and find a new place to stay the night. Hi, I'm Jay. And this is Lake Somerville State Park. Along with the trailway, Lake Somerville State Park has 25 miles of trail. And on this day in particular, I really wanted to do a big hike. But I also felt that the choice was really important today. And I chose to head to the lake. And the lake was dazzling and sparkling like diamonds on the surface. And I wanted to paint them, but I knew that that lighting effect was fleeting. So I scouted around, and I think I found a better location. Anything is possible! Shout out Josh King. It was already warm enough that I needed to jump in the lake to cool off, and I would continue to do so throughout the painting session. But the spot I found, I appreciated for its being partially in shadow, for the elevated vantage point, but also for these fragrant flowers that made it just a delight to sit around and smell the beautiful air as I painted. This would have been the palette that I might have used while sitting at Stephen F. Austin. But instead, I'll just bogart the cadmium red light from that palette, and I'll add it to this orange, somewhat neutral palette. But I'm sticking with that theme of doing complementary colors. So the underpainting is blue, and the palette will be titanium white, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow light. And the cadmium red light will help mix other oranges along with the burnt sienna. And there's a little bit of ultramarine blue to help dull down any of the oranges if I want. Now, even if you try to stay fairly true to the scene you're seeing in front of you, meaning you're not moving a big tree from the left of the composition to the right or something like that, there are still a lot of choices. Do you place the bush high or low in the composition? How wide a view or tight of a crop do you have? And that's what I'm thinking about as I'm sketching here. I try out a couple of my favorite options and give them a quick value rendering just to see what I think is going to work the best. And I also like leaving a portion of the map visible, and I think this is what I'll go with. I don't always have a consistent way of painting, you may have noticed from this State Park series. Sometimes I'll mix with the brush, and sometimes I'll load the palette beforehand. That's what I'm choosing to go with today. It's nice to have the range of colors and values that you think you might use that day arrayed on your palette, so you're just sort of dipping in them as needed instead of mixing as you go. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Lake Somerville was something of a last-minute scramble, but I really am glad I'm here today. It's very peaceful. I chose not to put any music in the video so that you could hear how serene it was while I was on this little hill painting today. The silence is broken, but it's hard to get mad at this guy. He's enjoying his day fishing, just like I am over here painting. But it just gives me an excuse to go swimming for a little bit, and soon enough he's moved on to find deeper, more productive waters, and I'm back to painting. It's good to use brushes dedicated to a specific value or value range, and to use brushes of different sizes so that your marks are a little bit more interesting. So you see me switch from one brush to another here depending on the task, and the brushes get smaller as I get down to finer detail. You can see I'm using my pinky on the drawing board to help steady my hand, and I'm looking at the bush or group of trees that are standing in the water there, and I'm using the light value to paint the negative space. So I'm not painting the limbs or the branches, but I'm painting the space in between them instead. Now it's time for a darker, warmer value, so I switch brushes and I switch mentality. I go from thinking about the negative space to filling in those gaps with the positive space, the branches, the leaves, everything that you see that is the tree. For whatever reason, I didn't record the foliage portion of the tree, but it's approached the same way. I'm basically looking at negative space and positive space, dark values contrasted with light values, kind of outlining and then filling in. But here what I'm doing is filling in the background area, giving an indication of the flow of the water and the depth of the space. Oh, gosh. So it's time to clean up and hit the trail. There's always a tension in these videos between hiking and painting, but today felt really important to prioritize painting. And it was a good reminder to me that the choices we make are really important, and sometimes they produce outcomes that are irrevocable. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And knowing how way leads on to way, so true, and I'm on the way to my next park. But thank you for taking a moment to stop and watch this visit. We'll see you next time.